Hello, is that Gary?
Hello. Yes,
Hi,
finally.
Gary.
We're
Yay.
having some AV technical difficulties. I don't know if you can see me, but I'll try and pull this up.
Well, we can hear you.
If you can hear me, maybe we go from there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let's jump right in, and we'll just hear you just fine. And if I need to repeat any questions, just let me know. But welcome, Gary. We're glad to have you here. And for our audience that has joined us tonight via YouTube, we just want to quickly give Gary some time to introduce himself. Gary is running for House District 41. So Gary, before we jump into questions, oh, and before we do that, sorry, one other thing. We just want to remind all of you who've joined us tonight that we appreciate your attendance here. We appreciate the time you set aside to listen to our candidates and get to know them and ask questions. We want to remind you that these events are possible because of the generous donations of our fellow Republicans. And so if you have the opportunity, please visit our Salt Lake County GOP website and make a donation there. Those donations are what help us continue to provide these opportunities for our candidates, so that our candidates take it home in November. That's our goal. All right, so with that, Gary, if you'll just please introduce yourself to our audience, and then we'll jump into questions.
Well, yeah, my name is Gary Sandberg. I have lived in this district, House 41, for the majority of my life. I've loved it. I think it's the finest place that anyone could ever choose to live. I have worked for the last 55 years at a family business by the name of Granite Mill, and I've been the managing director and CEO for the last 35 years. So I've had an opportunity to make payroll, understand the vagaries of the economy, how it impacts business, how it impacts the employees in those businesses, which are the lifeblood that make it work. And we cherish and respect greatly and the employees that we've had the privilege of working with. So when I see what's going on in this country, and I'm not going to wax on that right now, but suffice it to say that a business, running a business has been a real good and difficult teacher. We learn the hard way. When we make mistakes, we own them and we have to pay for them. I've also spent 8.5 years as in the military. I was in an MI military intelligence unit, interrogating as a linguist. And I enjoyed my military service. I have great respect for the military and how it serves our country. We can't do without it. We have to remain strong and vigilant at all times. I've also had an opportunity to serve as a honorary colonel in the South Salt Lake Police Department for the last 7.5, 8 years now. And I again respect the importance of our service people that are police and fire that protect and defend us. And I think that they need our full support. As far as I'm also a father and a grandfather of 18 children. I have 5 children of my own. My wife and I of 46 years have been blessed with a wonderful family. We also learn the hard way sometimes in how the challenges that it is to raise children. I'm right there. I understand it, but I also recognize it's the greatest teacher and the greatest blessing that we could ever have. So, as far as introduction, for right now, that's basically who I am, what I have done. I can go on to other things if you would like, but I think that's suffice for this moment.
Thank you, Gary. And with your permission, I'm going to share my screen. I've got your website pulled up. That way we have a nice image of you while you're answering tonight's questions, so people can kind of put a face with your name. Is that okay with you if I share the? Okay, perfect.
If I had a 20-year-old, I'd be on with you. So I unfortunately I'm a little challenged on some of the features of this particular format.
No problem.
But at least we can hear each other.
Well, so what I just did is I just shared my screen, and so my screen is now showing your website with your picture and a description of you. So that way, as you're answering questions, as people are joining us, joining the town hall a little bit later, maybe they missed your introduction, and they are wondering why they can't see you, they at least are seeing your picture. So there we go.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And it's a great picture. Okay.
It's what I've got. It's what I've got.
It's great.
There you go.
So let's jump right in and just start having a conversation here. Again, my role is just to give you the opportunity to talk about what's important to you, offer some questions to get the conversation going, and then I'll be checking in periodically with our YouTube chat. So again, anyone who's viewing from home, take the opportunity to add your question to the chat, and we'll pull from there as well. But we'll jump right in with our first question. Tell us about, as you were to serve in the legislature, what are some bills that you would support or that you have seen come through the legislature that you feel protect families?
Well, I am very concerned about the direction that we are seeing both in schools, and I do not my wife was a teacher at East High School, so I know the challenges that teachers face. I embrace the good teachers and the hard work and effort that they do to prepare for their students. I think that families and the importance of family cannot be overstated, and it has to be protected through our school system. Anything and everything that we do that undermines the family through schools, through education, has to be closely monitored and taken out of the curriculum. If there are things that basically say we're here to be your parents and usurp the responsibility and vision that parents need to be. They know their children the very best, and I know that not every home is a perfect home, but those things are still best done by the parents. And I think anything that we do to strengthen the family through education needs to be done, and things that undermine the parental and the family unit need to be weeded out. And bills that as they come before the legislature, and I know that there have been bills in the past that have come before the legislature, if they hit my desk, I will be absolutely foursquare in favor of bills that support the family and protect the family and the rights and duties and responsibilities of parents.
Thank you for that. I appreciate your thorough answer there. Our next question has to do with inflation. This is something that is hitting hard in a lot of Utah families. You're talking about supporting those policies that protect the family, and our families in Utah are certainly being impacted by inflation. What would you do as a member of the state legislature to address inflation?
Right now, we were in a very fortunate situation of last legislative session. We had $100 million surplus, that has been put back in the future to either lower taxes. And I'm suggesting, and I know that there's been efforts to mitigate the horrendous taxes, the blow that we've had on inflation. And one of the suggestions that I threw out a month ago when gas prices were over $5 a gallon and some even higher than that, was that perhaps we could mitigate or give a hiatus for a period to the gas tax in the state of Utah. That's something that I think might be worthy of exploring. When you're seeing inflation hitting the grocery stores for a pound of butter or vegetables, and those have been going up 13, 14, 15% and in this last year, and that is untenable. And I think that we need to look at perhaps lowering the sales tax on food would be something that I would like to look at and see what the fiscal effects might be if we were to consider lowering the tax on food. Those essential things, we have to get to work, we have to get home, and we have to eat. And those are two things that I would look very favorably on mitigating some of this with this surplus money that we got.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's on everyone's mind. So it's always nice to hear someone who is solution oriented. Like, here's some things I've thought about that might be part of the solution. So I appreciate that. Speaking of solutions, one of the big things that is on a lot of people's minds as well in Utah is growth, and in particular, housing, both affordable housing and housing affordability. In the 2021 legislative session, they passed a law requiring cities to adopt new zoning ordinances that allowed for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. So this is a bit of a solution towards, the housing crisis we are seeing in Utah. So through this zoning, cities are charged with determining where and how ADUs exist. How would you support the effort to address both affordable housing and housing affordability? I have a son that just moved into a new home last week, and the amount that he had to pay for that home was unfathomable to me years ago. I mean, I've been in home for many, many years, fortunately, but the young people trying to buy homes today are faced with a horrible set of circumstances. And on Tuesday, the Fed just raised the interest rate, the rate by another 0.75 of a percentage point. So that's 2.25% over the last 3 months. Those things impact affordability of houses and people's ability to get into a home. If you've got a job and a good job, even with a good job, that makes that very difficult. And so I'm restating to a degree the problem, but we're making the problem worse. Interest rates are a factor in every home that's built and every house that's sold. Those interest rates are skyrocketing now, and I know we've had a long period of low interest rates and almost unfathomably low interest rates, but now these things are going up in a time when inflation is a big problem, and it's supposedly done to curb inflation. The way to curb inflation is let's get people back to work and working more efficiently. One of the things that's precious to me, I run a business and have for over 50 years,
our business is 115 years old, and so we've made payroll into this community for over 115 years. I'm very proud of that, and I think that the families and the homes and the dinners that were put on the table because there was money there because of a good job. Good jobs are the secret, and I cannot hire people. I have good jobs waiting. I cannot hire people because people are not interested in working right now. And the skill sets that we need and that many other trades need that go into building homes are very scarce. They're not coming out of our schools and technical schools at the rate that we need them. So I would be very much in favor of and an advocate for enhancing the trade school programs and funding them adequately so young people can come out of those schools and with the skill sets they need to work and hit the ground running in good jobs. We need plumbers, we need electricians, we need mechanics, and these people are critical. And I'm very adamant about how I'm passionate about being able to get the schools training young people so they can come into good jobs and hit the ground running. And that's how we can get housing as more affordably done. If you've got more people that are, I mean, right now, I think every plumber has got a backlog, and so of work to do, and they can't get to it because they don't have enough people. And we share that problem. Having more people with good skills will help mitigate the costs that we're facing right now.
I'm an educator by trade, so I always applaud efforts to ensure that we are thinking about how our education systems are preparing students to be successful in whatever career path they might choose. So I appreciate that thoughtful attention to one aspect of the solution that perhaps people don't always consider is trades. So thank you for that.
Not every student is destined and set to go to college. I mean, these other trades there are good jobs out there, and they need to be skilled people need to be coming out of our education system for those jobs as well.
Yeah, and there's great empowerment in telling a student how many options are open to them, and that they will be successful, and that we will help them find that success. So I love that. We have time for one more question. Before I ask you that question, I'm just going to quickly check our chat. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm just going to close with one final question, and then invite you to wrap it up and sort of answer that question, and then give your summation, your final thoughts that you'd like people to know about you. So this final question has to do with the recent Salt Lake County mask mandate. The legislature, as you know, overturned that mask mandate from the county council, and that decision received both praise and some criticism. What do you believe is the role of the state legislature regarding political subdivisions?
Well, that's a great question. If I'm understanding it correctly, it gets back to my basic core value. I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I love the Constitution. I think any time that we subdivide or through a political subdivision, we take on and do things, pass mandates that in any way undermine the Constitution of the United States. I think we're on dangerous ground. And I'm not saying that there aren't circumstances where those have to be taken into consideration, but I'm absolutely foursquare in favor of making sure that we do not give up our constitutional rights, and because of a set of circumstances that can be devastating, but it's devastating to lose constitutional rights that have been there for us for ever since the Constitution has existed. It's part of who we are as Americans. It's one of the greatest blessings that we could ever imagine, and we should jealously guard those rights. So political subdivisions that impede or seek to usurp those rights need to be watched very, very closely, and they should not be given a free hand. And I think in some cases, with regard to COVID and the mask mandates, they have been given more power than they should have been given.
Thank you for that, Gary. We are going to move on to our next candidate. Quinn, thank you so much for joining us. We're just wrapping up with Gary, and then we'll move into your town hall. Gary, any final thoughts for those who are watching on our YouTube stream?
Yes, just real quickly. As you know, UDOT announced their recommendation to support the gondola line up Little Cottonwood Canyon. My voting district, House 41, takes in both Little and Big Cottonwood Canyons. I think that this decision by UDOT, it troubles me, because I think that there are options that we have not really considered adequately. And I think that if we are a little more careful, we will avoid making a bad decision with regard to this. There are other options. For example, to go up to Park City, if you do a bird's eye view from Park City, you can put a gondola from Park City over to Little Cottonwood Canyon or Brighton, Alta and Brighton. And I would like to see that study fleshed out a little bit more. I know there's been 7 years of study, but I think that there needs to be a little more done before I would be willing to support that option. And last but not least, I just truly think that our water situation up those canyons needs to be, again, carefully studied. There are fire hydrants up these canyons that don't have any water. And as you know, what's happened in wildfires in Colorado and California, thousands of homes are burned, and they have no way to rebuild those homes without devastation, loss of property and life. And I think that we need to do a better job of making sure that we've got water to the homes and to the fire hydrants, and fire suppression is in good shape up there. Those are two key issues that I have. My opponent is I'm sure a wonderful person, but she does not, in my opinion, reflect the values of this voting district. She votes 95% in favor of the progressive Democrat agenda and platform, which I do not think reflects our values of open borders, liberalized abortion. These are things that I think our neighborhood, our neighbors and friends do not feel are the right way to go. And that's how I feel. And I just think that we need to be held accountable for our votes. So that would be my summary, and I appreciate the time to explore these things and your time, this afternoon, this evening. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Even though the video aspect did not work out as you had hoped, we could hear you very clearly. So thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Sandberg.
All right, and thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.
All right, stop sharing my screen. So we are going to move on to our second candidate of the evening. Welcome, Quinn. We are so happy to have you here with us tonight. We do have some people joining us on our YouTube streaming. And so for those who are jumping on to hear from you, Quinn, I just want to remind them that we will be monitoring the chat that is in our YouTube streaming channel. And people who have joined us can add their questions in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that chat and pulling in questions as we go through our conversation. But what I'd like to just start with is just an appreciation to all of those who continue to support our Salt Lake County GOP. The party appreciates those donations and is investing those donations in events just like tonight's town hall. And it's making it possible for our candidates to talk to more and more people, which is critical. I've served, I'm currently serving as elected official, run for office. It's a lot of work, and it's important to have the opportunity to connect with voters. So with that, we're going to turn it over to you, Quinn, and hope that people watching at home will go to our Salt Lake County GOP website and donate to support additional events like this. Would you take just a couple of minutes, however much time you feel is necessary, just kind of as an introduction, and then we will jump in with questions.
Okay. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. Perfectly. And we can see you.
Okay. Yeah, got the lighthouse picture behind me. Okay. So my name is Quinn Kotter. Lifelong Utahn. I was born in Clinton, up in Davis County, and have lived in West Valley City in the Magnet area now for 5 years, and this is my home. I went to Northridge High School, and then afterwards went to the University of Utah for chemical engineering, and have worked as a chemical engineer for 16 years now, and decided to get involved in politics in the year 2020 when a whole bunch of bad things started happening. I felt the need to step up and do something. So I have not run for any public office before, but I really believe in doing what's right and listening. And I think that we need to have a return to some fundamental principles in our country and in our state.
I appreciate that. That's a great introduction. It reminds me of a quote that I have heard and have now carried with me. I heard it at the funeral for Major/Mayor Brent Taylor from North Ogden, who was known to say, "You can wring your hands or you can roll up your sleeves, but you can't do both." And that's what you're doing. Like, and you just expressed, I saw some things, wasn't too happy about, but instead of just sitting around and wringing my hands, I rolled up my sleeves, and here I am. So thank you, Quinn, for jumping in and deciding to roll up your sleeves. I appreciate it. Or I should say we appreciate it. Okay, so with that, let's just jump into our questions. The first question has to do with families. So as you watch the state legislature, and as you hope to be in the legislature, you are running for House District 26. What bills have you seen that you have supported or would support, or what bills would you hope to bring forward as a member of the legislature in order to protect families?
I think anything that promotes the maintenance of marriage so that it supports having two parents in the household, a mother and a father. Perhaps making divorce a little more difficult, because there's a lot of children that are growing up in single parent homes. I know it's a difficult thing to talk about. I think that recognizing the traditional family as the fundamental unit of society, and I would be supportive of the bill that outlaws the transgender males or females from participating in female sports. I feel like that's it's what's the word I'm looking for? It puts undue pressure on the girls, who all sorts of other issues, like in the locker room and in the bathrooms, not just the competition aspect of it. but really that any policy that we can help to have parents get married, stay married, and raise their children and take responsibility for their children. That I've got a friend that his parents got divorced when he was 11, and it affected him his whole life. I mean, he went through a rough time. And I was fortunate my parents went through a rough time and they chose not to get divorced. And our whole family benefited from that. So those are my feelings on that aspect.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Quinn. So our next question is somewhat tied to the idea of protecting families. We know that inflation is really impacting families in Utah, and it's hitting hard in some families. And so the question would be, when you were, if you, as a member of the state legislature, I want to say when, because I am proactive and want you to win. So when you are a member of the state legislature, what might you do to address inflation?
I have two ideas. I have here in my hands a copy of the Utah State Constitution, and in Article 1, Section 27, it says, "A frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is essential to the security of individual rights and the perpetuity of free government." And I think we've lost a lot of that. You know, I've attended several meetings up at the Capitol Hill, and the feeling of what is the proper role of government is a question of, you know, not should we pass all these bills, can we? That's one area I would like to address, is be some new blood in there, some fresh, you know, going back to what's the intention of the Constitution? What's the intention of government? What is it supposed to do? Proper role. That will, in my mind, limit a lot of spending. The second thing, I've talked with several individuals and business owners about property taxes. I know this is a touchy subject because property taxes fund our education. So one family paid $7,000 this year. A business owner paid $19,000 this year. Another business owner I talked to has paid $275,000 over the last 10 years. That's a lot of property tax. If I know there's a bill coming up, and if we can find a way to cut property taxes, but still keep the schooling funded with the same, and cut spending elsewhere, find places where we can trim government spending, because that maybe we can look at areas where government's not doing its proper role, look at the Constitution and say, yeah, that's not, the government shouldn't be doing that. Let's see if we can start turning the houseboat, so to speak, and get that momentum going back to a limited government.
Thank you, Quinn. So since you've mentioned, you know, the role of government, I think this next question would be appropriate now. So recently, the legislature overturned a Salt Lake County mask mandate, and that decision by the legislature received both praise and criticism. What do you see the role of the state is regarding its political subdivisions?
Political subdivisions. Well, all lawmaking authority is vested in the Congress. That's a declaration here. I'll just read it. Got my Constitution here. In fact, it's the very first paragraph of the first article of the Constitution. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. At the state level, it's the same, the House and the Senate. So what is the House and what is the Senate? They're elected representatives of the people. If the people feel that they want a mask mandate, they contact their House representatives, and then the House reps can pass a law. And then it's up to the governor to enforce that law. I don't believe that it is the role of an unelected official to make that decision. I really don't. I think that's the proper subdivision. That's how government should be. So.
As an educator, can I just tell you how much I appreciate you bringing text to the town hall and reading, reading and educating as part of your answers tonight? That's just simply delightful. So thank you for that. I love it. All right, let's move on to another big challenge in Utah that the legislature has certainly been wrestling with, and local government has as well. You know, city councils across the state are and mayors are wrestling with this, and that is growth, and specifically housing affordability and affordable housing. So in 2021, the legislature passed a law requiring cities to adopt new zoning ordinances to allow for accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. So seeing that as a potential solution of many that will be needed. But this specific solution was for ADUs. Through zoning, cities are still charged with determining where and how ADUs exist. How would you support the effort to address both affordable housing and housing affordability?
I think I can best answer this by getting as many of the people in House District 26 to attend their city council meetings at West Valley City and Magna Township. The last two I went to, there were, I think, 3 of us or 6 of us. And I've talked to a lot of people that a lot of their concerns are local city issues. And, you know, I've heard many times that, you know, we don't want to go and complain. Well, we have to participate in our city governments. It's up to, this is a local issue. What type of homes do you want where you live? Do you want apartment complexes next to you, or would you rather have, you know, I talked to a contractor and he actually gave me a really good idea. I thought it was a good idea. He said about 30 years ago, he specialized in building these starter homes, and the smallest one they ever built was 725 square feet, and they were built kind of vertical on 50-foot lots, and they had 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a 2-car garage. Thought, wow. And they used high quality building materials, and it was just it had a little tiny yard. So I mean, a place to, and the garage, a place to store the cars rather than on the street. I really think that getting people to their city councils and talking to their council reps and their mayors is the best solution to determine. It's up to the people locally how to determine what type of homes they want, and yeah, I'll stop it there.
Thank you for that. Let me just do a quick reminder, hop over here to our YouTube stream. I'm checking for any questions. So we don't have anything that's been shared in the chat yet, Quinn. So I'm going to continue going through some questions that we've prepared. But I do want to remind those who are watching at home or from wherever who are on our YouTube streaming to go ahead and use the chat and provide some questions. We're anxious to hear from you and would love to know what you would like to learn from Quinn tonight. So just a quick reminder, but we have about 10 minutes left in our town hall. So please use the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question here. So UDOT recently released its recommendation for solving the transportation challenges in Little Cottonwood Canyon. What are your thoughts on UDOT's recommendation?
It was a toll road, right? That's a recommendation. That's what I read.
So their recommendation was actually kind of a multi-pronged approach with various, the goal would be to implement various solutions, but the one that has caught most people's attention is the large transit-oriented solution. UDOT had in their EIS, they had narrowed it down to two possible recommendations that they studied. The whole EIS was basically a 4-year process. And they had narrowed it down to widening Little Cottonwood Canyon Road, and so to allow for more buses to be the transit solution, or a gondola up Little Cottonwood Canyon Road to be the transit solution. But you're right, on top of additional kind of immediate solutions. So the phasing would be, let's start with the immediate solutions, but ultimately the recommendation that everyone is talking about and that the legislature will ultimately determine if they will act on is between those two. UDOT recommended the gondola as the large transit solution for the challenges. Does that help?
Yeah. So I think I oppose, not I think, I would oppose the gondola because it would be an eyesore and it benefits, I think, just the ski resorts. I'd be more in favor of widening the road and doing something like they do here in West Valley on, I believe it's 4500 South. It's certain times of the day, it says like it's seven lane road, I think, and certain times of the day, there's only one lane coming one direction and 6 lanes go in the other. And then at the end of the day, it's the opposite. So perhaps we could widen the road and have 3 lanes going up to the resorts in the morning and then 3 lanes coming back in the evening. And then we could not have a gondola. And I think that would be a much better solution. And Gary Sandberg, at the end of his, I caught the tail end, he talked about perhaps a gondola from Alta over to Snowboard from the backside. I thought that would be a good idea too. And that should be paid by the ski resorts, in my opinion, because that's not that's a private ski resort issue, not transportation at the bottom. So yeah.
Oh, thank you, Quinn. All right, what you kind of mentioned this in your introduction, but I'd like you, if you would like to elaborate further, feel free to do so. What experience have you had in public service, either in the military, community service, or other voluntary service organizations?
I haven't had any political service experience, and except for getting involved with my family and going to legislative sessions and talking to my House reps and Senate reps. I served a mission for my church in Mexico for 2 years and was in the Boy Scouts as a kid and got my Eagle Scout, did my service project, and that was very, very rewarding for me. Other than that, I have not been in the public's eye. I just simply have not been a public official. I'm new.
And that's totally fine, because it's more about service. And so, the question, I guess, was more about service. So I feel like you did touch on that of the service experiences you've had thus far. How do you feel those experiences you've had in service would inform your role as a legislature? So though this might be your first elected role, you do have experience serving in your community and with your family. How will that inform the work and the thought that you have as a legislator?
Well, when we serve others, we serve God. I think that I need to do more. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I felt like I haven't done enough with my life, that I needed to I told God, take the pen and author my life, because I haven't done enough. So that's actually one of the reasons I decided to do this.
Wow, thank you for being really transparent and open about that. I appreciate that. It's sometimes a hard thing to trust that we are being led to do something when it feels really hard. So thank you for that. So we did discuss growth in terms of the challenges associated with housing affordability and affordable housing. What other thoughts do you have on the growth challenges we're facing, and what might be some solutions you would bring as a member of the legislature?
I still think that we can't just put a cap on the population in the state. If growth happens, we have to deal with it. But I still think that the decisions need to happen at the local level. And I think the best way is to work with the cities to determine how to grow and where new cities need to go and how to get water for them. Don't have a lot of experience in this area. I'm just going to be quite honest. I'm ready to listen and learn. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I muted myself because I was trying not to distract from what you were saying. Thank you for telling me that. I completely understand, and I actually appreciate that perspective. I don't know if you know this, I'm a member of the Sandy City Council, and so I really appreciate hearing the value you have for local government and the appreciation you would have as a legislator for the dynamics of local government and the essential nature of what local government does. So I don't know if you we're trying to say, hey Marcy, I'm aware of all your hard work, thanks so much, or not, but I appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I have one more question on, oh sorry, go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, I actually do have a comment about that. It's basically, to handle the growth, we really should read Article 11 of the Utah State Constitution. It talks about how the legislator let's see. The legislator may not, let's see. I can't find the exact sentence I was looking for, but it talks about most of the decisions for the local level should be done by the city council, and it's very specific. In fact, it's the longest section of the Utah State Constitution, and it's the hardest to read. But, really, that's what we should follow for the growth, in my opinion, is the Utah State Constitution, Article 11.
Thank you. Thank you. It's like I mentioned before, it's nice to hear our Constitution referenced. That's great. All right, so our final question, and then after you answer this question, I'm going to ask you just to kind of go right into your closing remarks. What is it you'd like to leave us with as we end tonight's town hall? So I'll ask the question again, answer that, and then just go right into your closing remarks. We've heard a lot about elections, and you even mentioned at the start of our town hall that some things happened in 2020 that kind of brought you into the arena. So what are your ideas for improving election integrity?
I think one of the things that should definitely be mandatory is if you vote in person, you need to have a photo ID. I don't oppose voting by mail, especially if you can't get to, if you're have a physical disability or the elderly or some, if you're bedridden. But I am not opposed to showing proof that you are who you are. I think that we can certainly do things to ensure that people are who they are, that they can vote, and still allow everybody who can vote to vote. Yeah, I oppose anything that would prohibit or make it harder for people to vote, but we do need to be sure that those who are voting can, and who they are. So that's one thing I would be looking at. Yeah.
Thank you, Quinn. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who've joined us tonight?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I want to do is I want to be a voice of reason at the Capitol, and I want to listen to my constituents, and not necessarily. I want to hear their concern. I want to be someone who can be different than how it currently is in our district, where it's you tend to do a lot of listening as a constituent, listening to your House rep talk. I'm going to be the opposite, and I'm going to be the one who will listen and hear all the perspectives. And I want to do policies that will benefit the people in my district and leave it a better place. I feel like it's my duty to do this. So I'm happy. I'm proud to be doing this. I have my family support, and it's very difficult, but I know it's the right thing to do. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us tonight, giving us a little bit of your time. I know how busy you are as we, wrap up, get closer and closer to November. So thank you for your efforts. Thank your family, please. We know and are well aware of the sacrifices they are making to support you in this campaign. We are cheering you on, and we appreciate again the time you spent with us tonight. And for those who are viewing from home, please let your friends know about Quinn and our candidate earlier tonight, Gary. Share the link that will be available through our GOP Salt Lake County GOP website. We're recording all of our YouTube stream. So all of our town halls will be available. You can push them out and share them with your friends so that people can watch them, even if they were not able to join us tonight. So thank you again, Quinn. Thank you to all who joined us tonight. And we're cheering you on.
Thank you.
Yes, have a good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.